The main stars of the franchise are usually the raptors or the really big hitters like the Rexes or spinosaurus. The other medium-sized carnivores are usually just used as background dinosaurs for a few shots or are used as fodder for the bigger dinosaurs to just bully. But some of them are actually pretty strong and are not afraid to run fades with some of the strongest Rexes ever shown. One example of this are the Carnos of Jurassic World. It's unclear as to how many of them are made because unlike the T-Rexes or Raptors, we don't get a defined number from the labs or something saying just how many were initially made. There are Carnos featured in the franchise before Jurassic World, but those are from the Lost World novels and probably not film canon, so I'm going to be listing all the Carnotaurs shown on screen from 2015 all the way to 2025. Some may be a bit controversial because many think one Carno is actually two and so on, but I'm going to be listing the most likely number based on their locations and developments from movie to movie. So hit that subscribe button for more stuff like this and leave any suggestions you may have in the Discord. Realistically, I won't be able to do all, but a few will make it onto some of these videos. You could also just join if you like anything prehistoric. Works out even better if you're an artist too, since we have competitions every month. But with that over, let's list all the Carnotaurs shown in Jurassic World. The intro name for these guys is foul, but I couldn't find anything else. Not even a fan name online. Fallen Kingdom was the first time we saw Carnos in one of the movies and it was a grand introduction to say the least. But also kind of a sad ending. This bruiser, who I'll just call Carno 1, was all farming the moment he went on screen, standing right behind the gyrosphere looking at everyone just to run straight past him and tackle a massive Spinoceratops. Despite this animal being around 10 meters and 3 tons, it was surprisingly agile. You'd expect a fight between a large theropod and a ceratopsian to be a bit more less skilled, but this guy got moves. Bro charged head on into the Sino, grabbed its frill and then kicked it off. I guess your legs do have to be strong when you're a stumpy armed bellysaur, and even as he's getting tossed around he still goes on. But eventually he gets flipped so hard that he doesn't have enough time to catch up to the Sinoceratops. If there's one thing I could say about not just this Carno but all of them in general, is that their species are probably the most durable in the franchise. However, even its durability wouldn't save it from a 9-ton animal stomping on its neck. The crazy thing is that Rexi's bite isn't the thing that killed it, it was the weight of her foot on its neck. I also like that he basically looked at Owen and said, "I'm not here for you big dog" at first, but when the Sinoceratops escaped he got frustrated and just decided to in fact target Owen. But Rexi comes in and saves the day just in time while being poisoned. There's likely a good amount of Carnos on Nublar, but aside from the one that got his neck snapped during the volcano scene, the only one we see is this one running off a cliff trying to avoid the molten lava and flaming rocks. These guys may have in fact been volcano victims and not that well known, but the next Carno is the most popular one, and not just for his species but in dinosaurs in general. You all know him, you all love him, and if you don't, what's wrong with you? Toro was the very first Carno we saw in the franchise and quickly established himself as a fan favorite. He was never shown in the movie but was relevant for a good amount of Camp Cretaceous screen time. And yes, I do really mean he was never shown in a movie. Probably some future Carnos on the list you could agree that there might be a mix-up, but there is none for Toro. He is absolutely not the Carnotaurs from Fallen Kingdom. For one, the bruiser at the start of Fallen Kingdom has no scars, or at least none like Tauros, who has a massive scar on his face with a few more noticeable ones around his body. And their tail tips are also a different color, not to mention his color scheme itself is a little brighter. But with that clarification out of the way, Toro is a true survivor. My guy survived a small building level explosion in close quarters, got hit by an Anki's tail and then fell off a cliff, and many more stuff. The most notable interaction we've seen with Toro was in season 1, where he made some sort of deal with the Indominus. The hybrid is part Carno, so it's likely they could communicate. She walked up to Toro and broke the fence so he could roam free. The running theory as to why she did that was to use Toro as a minion of sorts. In exchange for his freedom, he would be required to do something for her. I will say that he has balls of steel for roaring at her, but in the end, whether he liked it or not, he had to do what she wanted or get killed. And what was the favor the hybrid wanted him to do? Well, more than likely it was to eliminate the Nublar 6. Toro to this day is the only dinosaur that comes even close to Acid 87's level of tracking and malice when it comes to tracking a specific group of people. The Spinosaurus was understandable considering what humans put him through, but for Toro to just specifically target these kids and be able to track them down no matter what part of Nublar they went seems a bit unwarranted. Although there is one less popular theory for this unfiltered malice. When Denji and Darius were running for their lives when in Toro's enclosure, they escaped just in the nick of time but caused Toro to smash into the fence, leaving a massive scar, not to mention Kenji mocking him after. I don't know if Toro understood and probably just hated those two after that. I mean, it's possible but not likely. But a scar would be child's play compared to what else he endured. The Indominus was somewhat understandable, but for something a third of our size taking repeated hits from an Ankylosaurus and just shaking it off is lunacy. And just before he can get to Ben, Bumpy came in and helped her friend, which eventually led to Toro falling off a high cliff and still walking it off. I fell off a bed 2 weeks ago because I misaveraged and I just laid there for like 3 solid minutes holding my back. The thing that cemented his durability status was the explosion he survived on the ground, after a gas explosion lit him up in close quarters. This time he actually was decently hurt, but he still decided to leave the campers for now and go on his way to recover, which he did. Unfortunately, like most other dinosaurs in Season 5, Toro was captured by Manticore and placed on their island as entertainment. They implanted something into his brain and used him like a puppet to carry out whatever commands they wanted, without taking his safety into account. At least he got to kill some of the captors though. After he shook off the raptors with terrifying ease when he temporarily got back his sentience, he murked one of the Manticore workers. But at the end of Season 5, he has a somewhat happy ending. I say somewhat because even though he was set free, there's a high chance that he's somehow been captured and shipped off to somewhere else like the dinosaurs in Chaos Theory. But who knows, maybe he escaped into a wild area like the Sucos or something. Not sure if this applies, but he did have a brawl with one of the big hitters in the franchise when he fought the Tauros in Hidden Adventure. He put up quite a fight but eventually was forced to back down later. It seems like these medium-sized theropods have no respect for the bigger carnivores. Like the Allosaurus who thought it was their time to shine and rushed towards one of the biggest and strongest Rexes in the franchise. Speaking of, the next Carnotaurus is actually the reason Big E.T. escaped on the dock. In Chaos Theory, we are introduced to a Carno that for a brief moment made those of us who read the novels remember the Carnos on Sorna. This green Carnotaurus has an interesting dark green or a slightly olive color scheme that would be perfect for blending into any jungle environment, and is possibly the same or similar color scheme as the ones in the novels. This is the only one that has deviated from the brown or common reddish pattern we see in the species, and is an intelligent one. Once it broke out of the warehouse along with some of the other dinosaurs, it wasn't just all focused on killing people, or at least didn't put that much effort into it. The Carno for the most part just wanted to get them out of sight. It grabbed the guy and just threw him away, and lazily just lunged at some others to send them packing. Interestingly, some of the others like the Sinoceratops there at the time did something similar, where it was just driving away the humans. I mean, if someone is pointing darts and tasers in your face, you'd probably want them gone too. With that said, the Carnotaurus does not ignore the other decent sized theropod there being the Suchomimus. The moment it saw the Piscivore, it was on sight and he slammed it onto a crate and eventually let the big ETs escape after the Sucho's body hit the release button. And in the end, it along with some other dinosaurs ran into the sunset after Big E.T. pulled a Piccolo and posed after causing an explosion. This wide open freedom was likely temporary though, because I'm sure he got recaptured by Biosin or something. But regardless, this was the last time we saw it. The next and final Carnos on this list, however, may have had the saddest lives out of the bunch yet. In the events of Fallen Kingdom, we see a lot of dinosaurs being stored in the Lockwood Manor, and some were even shown on stage, all of which were meant for auction purposes. One of them was the Carnotaurus that would soon go on to be called Demon. This one is a bit of a debate, but from everything I could find online, most of the information supports this Carnotaurus being the same one in Dominion, where it breaks the horn. This Carno is quite interesting but still maintains the main Carno balls of steel feature, like trying to steal food from the strongest T-Rex at the time. There isn't much screen time of him here, but there is much more in Dominion and Camp Cretaceous, especially Camp Cretaceous. In Dominion, the Carnotaurus traveled all across the world after it was transported from California to Malta, where he went through some events that would lead to him losing part of his horn. Although some say that when Rexi slammed him onto the floor in Fallen Kingdom, that was when he broke his horn, but my eyes don't really see it. Never know though. Regardless, the next time we see him, he's much bigger and covered in more scars. He was one of the dinosaurs kept in Malta's underground market, and was likely used for fights the moment he was dropped. Not only that, it's likely that he was used as a breeder down there to transfer his strong genes to the next generation, so vicious dinosaur fight betting could continue. Demon is a male, but there are still some ways he could produce offspring. The first and least likely reason is asexually like some of the other dinosaurs, and the second is that he was set up with a female off-screen, and used to breed with her. Why do I think he was used for this? Well, it's because of this chap we see with a muscle next to the wizard wannabe, and it's apparent why he needed the muscle, considering how he clammed down on Melkor's arm along with the Lystro. We've seen other juvenile medium-sized theropods in the ring fight like the Baryonyx and Allosaurus, so it's likely that this juvenile Carnotaurus was a regular participant as well and clearly a good winner. This is all speculation though, it isn't confirmed that Demon is a dad, but there's a good chance considering just how strong he is. Weirdly enough though, in Dominion at least, Demon has some sort of relationship with the Allosaurus. These two kind of work together in some scenes and don't appear to have any beef, with the Allo throwing people towards the Carnotaurus to eat, and when they escaped in the open, the two are very close together without being aggressive. Which is strange because I think there was a poster showing an Allosaurus versus Carnotaur, so more than likely they were just kept close to each other and got used to each other's presence, or had some previous experience with the other. The same can be said for the half-blind Allosaurus in Chaos Theory. The reason I think these are different Allos is because the one at the Battle of Big Rot is partially blind like the one in Chaos Theory, but the one in Dominion has both working eyes. But regardless, when Demon escaped, he had a brief scrap with the Allosaurus but soon took part in a more shocking event later. When Santos lost the loyalty of one of our Atrociraptors, she pulled out her trump card and called Demon, who bashed through some rocks to her aid to fight the trainer and the raptors. I don't know how, but this Carno was regularly trained like the raptors and could have been in that holding pen per Santos' request. I just want to put out there that this Atrociraptor pack has been bitten by a T-Rex and slammed into walls, yet Demon was able to crush one of them and kill them. When the trainer does stand between them, it doesn't attack at first, instead just perplexed as to why this human is in front of it, but eventually just ends her life after realizing that's not Santos. And after that, it scares off the remaining 3 raptors and lumbers away to who knows where.
Psych!
And that's all the Carnos in Jurassic World. I got 6, but that number could be higher or lower depending on if you think some are 2 or 1 individual. So that's just about it for this video, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.